What is up, everybody? Welcome back, and today we are going to be doing the first of many Oilers off-season videos. And I'm going to start with this one because of two reasons. A, I think that this draft pick is the focal point of the off-season for the Oilers. Yes, I think they will make moves, but I think that the thing that we will remember most coming out of this, unless they make a horrendous move, is that this is the off-season where they made this pick. And I also think this is a good place to start because it's the easiest to determine. There's no more other factors. We don't have to depend and see what happens with teams making trades or re-signing or not re-signing players. This is simply, we have all the information we need. Let's see who they should take. Now, it's really hard with this draft pick, in my opinion. It's really hard because there's a lot of different ways you can go. I think that there's ways that you should not go, definitely if you're the Oilers. There's ways you can consider going if the situation's right. And then there's ways that, in my opinion, are probably the best. Let's start with what I think they should not be targeting, and I feel like this is a pretty obvious one. A center. Do not go for a center. When you have McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins, even if you move one of them to the wing and Nugent-Hopkins, you don't need anybody else. Also down the system, they have some guys that, might not be fully NHL ready, but over the next couple of years can challenge possibly for a fourth or third line spot. You've got Cooper Merity, you've got Ryan McLeod, and these are the ones that are mainly coming to mind off the top of my head right now. Those mainly are the better prospects up the middle. I'm pretty sure I'm missing out on somebody. I think there's Thomas Mazura as well. He's looking pretty solid. You don't need another center prospect. And obviously you can take one later in the draft. Do not spend this pick on one. Because there's other needs. That's really the only position where it's like, yeah, we don't need this. We really, really don't need this. I think the next less priority position for the Oilers should be in net. This is pretty obvious. The reason I put it above centers, though, is because if they wanted to pick a goalie with pick 14, there's one exception, and it's obviously Yaroslav Askarov. In my personal opinion, yes, you could say that they need to address the forward or defense. Yaroslav Askarov is a little bit of a different situation. This man is supposed to be a very good starting goaltender, an elite goaltender. And if you have an opportunity to pick him at pick 14, when in my opinion, he should not be at pick 14. In my opinion, if I were to make a mock draft, I would have him going anywhere in between 10 and 12. I think that's like the perfect positioning for him. He might fall. He might go higher. Who knows? It really depends on what some teams are going to aim to do. But I do not think that we should be taking a goalie here unless it's Askarov. Askarov might be the only time that you'd ever say, you know what, yeah, let's take the goalie. Then we get to the controversial opinion. Now, a lot of people out there are going to make the argument that the Oilers' biggest need is a defenseman. I can't agree with you more. They do need a defenseman. They need somebody who is really good right now. They need a number one defenseman for the future. That being said, they should not be addressing this need with a 14th overall pick in a stacked draft known for its forwards. Now, if the Oilers take a defender, I'm not going to be fully upset. It's not going to be like, I'm not going to be like anger-inducingly mad, as long as it's Jake Sanderson. He's really the only defender who, A, would be available because there's no way Drysdale's falling to 14. He's the only guy where it's like, alright, I can deal with this. But personally, defenders at pick 14, I don't think it's a good idea to go for that and bank on that guy being a top defender. A lot of people say that they need to take a defender, and one of the I'm mainly saying this because I'm here at the Hockey Writers. You can't see it, but they're predicting Sanderson to go at 14 to the Oilers. They're saying that the defense needs to be the main focus. They already have high-end defensive prospects, and that right there, is the exact reason they should not go for a defender, in my opinion. They have Evan Bouchard and Philip Broberg, who have, at minimum, potential to be top 3 defenders. And add them, all right, wait a little bit. I think next year both guys will play on the NHL team. Neither of them will be in the AHL. Broberg and Bouchard will both be on the NHL team next year. That will force a move or two, but I think that if you add them and give them a bit of development time, and you can let them play an impact, you already have Ethan Bear, Oscar Klefbom, Darnell Nurse, and Matt Benning. I don't think you need to draft a defenseman with the 14th overall pick. I really don't. Because, let's just say hypothetically, they do take a defender. I don't think Jake Sanderson will be on the board. So let's say they go for whoever the next best defender in the draft is, which I don't even know who that may be. It's in my opinion, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to draft a defender here because there are so many better forward talents. And we'll get to what I really think they should be targeting in the draft. And let's face it, Jake Sanderson, you draft him. He's going to take a few years. Okay, you have him. He takes a few years to be NHL ready. But you already have 6 defensive spots filled out. Because if you take Sanderson, you know what, let's just say, miracle situation here. They take Jake Sanderson. You then have a situation where you've got, okay, Broberg's pretty good at this point. Bouchard's pretty good at this point. You've still got Klefbom. You've still got Larson. You've still got Nurse. You've still got Bear. Is that going to be possible? Who knows? Honestly, you don't even need to keep all of them. If Broberg and Bouchard end up being as good as they're supposed to be, you can end up moving 1 or 2 of them out, and then you don't need to have another stud in there. You can just fill that with very good bottom 3rd pair defenders. Where does Jake Sanderson fit? Obviously, it's good to have defensive prospects, but right now, what this team needs to take, and I will persist this until the day I go, even though I'm only 15, till the day I go, I will persist on this point. The Oilers in this draft need to focus on taking a winger. A scoring winger. That's what they need. Okay? If this pick was pick number 7, I would gladly go for a defender because Jamie Drysdale is supposed to be that good. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, Jamie Drysdale is supposed to be really, really good. He could be the top defender for us. Let's get him. At 14, we're not going to find that top defender for us. What they need is forward depth. Because at the end of the day, 2 things crippled the Edmonton Oilers in this playoff run. The defense, which you already have Broberg and Bouchard on the way there. They're there. They are young guys who are going to push. I think no way Broberg doesn't make it. Bouchard. Broberg might be in the AHL, but at the same time, in the exhibition game, they had Broberg playing, not Bouchard. That must mean Dave Tippett sees something good in Broberg, right? And Dave Tippett has done a few good things for this team. I've hated on him in the playoffs for some of his decisions, don't get me wrong. But Dave Tippett has done a lot of good things with this team. In the regular season, at times, there was some form of defensive structure. There was structure finally on this team. And if he believes in Philip Broberg and wants to give him a shot, I'm all for that. I want Philip Broberg to get a shot. I want Philip Broberg to play as much as he can this year because I think Philip Broberg could actually be an impact player for the Oilers. I really do. So you have the defense addressed, prospect-wise. Desperately, right now, what we need is somebody who can be a middle 6 forward, who can put the puck in the back of the net, and who can play make to help out the dynamic center core that you've built up. You have 3 of the best centers, at least 2 of the top. You arguably have 2 of the top 3 centers in the league right now. Honestly, I think it's more like 2 of the top 4. it's really the argument of who you think is better between McKinnon and Draisaitl, but in my opinion, it's McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Draisaitl. But honestly, even those last two are interchangeable. And you have Nugent Hopkins, who again is arguably one of the better centers in this league. And he's playing on the wing because you don't have anybody there who is able to play there. Kale Yamamoto is a young wing prospect. Jesse Puljujärvi, he signed another contract over in Finland. He can opt out and come back to the Oilers, but will he? That's going to be the big question there, is will he do that, or will he stay over in Finland? He's clearly doing better with his career over there. Kills me the fact that we could have had Matthew Tkachuk and we didn't get him. But I really don't see why this team picks a defender. And like I said, if Jake Sanderson gets picked, okay, Jake Sanderson, he's looking really good, second best defender in the class. If it's anybody else, I'm furious. I really think that when you look at everything there is, when you look at what this team needs, when you look at what the team already has in the system, a winger should be top priority with the 14th overall pick. Because around that range, there has the ability to be some good guys. Like, I can't think of the ones off the top of my head, and I'm just going to pull up here. They have a top, a first round draft, mock draft here, where we just kind of go through. It doesn't have the same teams, but I'm just doing this to kind of look at some of the prospects. When you look at who could fall into their lap when it comes to wingers, I mean, you look around the range of their pick. I've heard good things about Rodion Amirov, I think it is. I don't know if they'd end up getting him, but he is looking pretty solid. Noel Gunler might be available. He's not bad. Jack Quinn isn't the worst thing in the world. Seth Jarvis is there. I know he's a little bit farther down, but Dawson Mercer. There's a lot of good wingers in this draft who do something very well, and that's put the puck in the back of the net. They can show up and score. And I think that's what this team needs. They need to pick a winger now, because they need something in the system when it comes to a prospect winger. And when it comes to the defenders, in my opinion, they have enough to get them through. When you mesh their current core with the prospects they have coming up, they need a winger right now. They really are in desperate need of a winger. And I also agree, like I said, they desperately need a defender as well. They don't need an 18-year-old that's still going to be a few years out. Defensively, they need to address that issue right now. They need to make a trade. They need to sign somebody in. They need to find somebody who can be arguably the best defender on the team. They do not need a 18-year-old who's going to be available in a few years where we've just by that time, Bouchard and Broberg are going to be good, and you've wasted 3 years of McDavid because you decided to pick a defender, or you could go out there and get a star defender, and then, in 3 years' time you'll have a really good winger, and hopefully at that point your wingers have, actually improved a bit. Maybe you've been able to find the better depth, and then this guy can come in. Whoever you choose to take, doesn't really matter who. When you look at the team, either wing would work, right or left, it doesn't really matter. But just take a goddamn scoring winger, Ken. I wanted you to take Cole Caulfield last year, because that would have been perfect, because Cole Caulfield right now is also looking like a fairly good prospect. And he would be so good beside McDavid in a couple years' time. But we took Broberg, and now, you know what? Looking back, I'll give credit where credit's due. Broberg was a pretty good pick. Broberg was. He's looking really good. Let's not do this again. We have enough defensive prospects, Ken. Let's go for a forward here. That's it. That's it for this video. The conclusion is, if just for a TLDR, do not take a goalie unless it's Askarov, and arguably even then, maybe don't do it. Do not go for a center by any means necessary unless Quinton Byfield or Tim Stützle falls, or Cole Perfetti maybe. Or Marco Rossi. One of those four. If one of those four fall, maybe a center, but they're not falling. They are not falling. Do not take a defender because you already have Broberg and Bouchard, and if anything, you need to get a right-now defender instead of a 3 years from now defender. And get a winger because in a few years' time, there will obviously be a cap crunch, and you're going to need reliable wingers, you know, like a guy on his ELC ready to play. That is it for this video. This turned into a bit of a more of a rant, but I think that this was a pretty good representation. I got all my thoughts out. I did repeat myself a bit, but that's fine. Thank you all for watching. What do you think the Oilers should do over the offseason? Should they draft a winger? Do you think that they should draft a defender? Should they trade the pick and try to address defensive woes that way? Don't do that, kid. Thank you all for watching this video. I will see you on the next one. And bye for now.